Look at this. This is our 100th show on Nebraska Live here at the Voice of College Football. And the 100th show is not just special for that, of course. Welcome, Matt RHULE, new head coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. All right, let's talk about it for the next 60 minutes here on Husker Live right here at the Voice of College Football, brought to you by Gene Arthur Associates. I've already left the link in the comments section of the chat right there. So go to Gene Arthur Associates, grab the link right there, go to Gene Arthur Associates, gets your instant quote, and you can save on home, RV, all sorts of different types of insurance that we will outline a little bit later. But we always appreciate our partnership with Gene Arthur Associates, and get on over there for your instant quote. And of course, we also appreciate for 100 shows, Greg Peterson, Husker Online. Greg, how you doing today?
Oh, doing pretty good, Mark. A little busy. Just got back from the press conference today, the introduction of Matt RHULE. So, yeah, in the middle of trying to work and do a show at the same time, but good news.
So, folks, once you get done watching this, head on over to Husker Online right here on YouTube, Husker Online Video, and you can check out Greg's latest work that is hot off the presses from Matt RHULE's news conference today. So, I've yet to see it. How impressed or otherwise were you with Matt RHULE and what he had to say today to Husker Nation?
I was very impressed. I think everybody was. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting that, but he's a football coach, and no, he knows how to capture the room, and you know. I'm kind of left a little bit speechless because I'm still kind of blown away at how impressed I was with him. So, he even said that he drove around Lincoln on a game day, just to check out the town, and drove around with his wife and his kids to see if they could live here, and they all said, yeah, we could live here. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. So, yeah, I'm a lot more excited today than I was, this morning. I'm more excited now than I was this morning. A lot more excited.
Yeah, well, how did the hire hit you initially? Because we've talked about Matt RHULE. Matt RHULE's name's been out there, but he wasn't necessarily like a leading candidate or on any kind of short list. But obviously, he achieved quite a few program building accolades there at both Temple and at Baylor. But how did that initially hit you when we found out a few days ago?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, actually. I mean, I was surprised and I wasn't surprised, right? I mean, we knew he was one of the top candidates for the job all along, but it was up to him, really. My opinion was, even before Nebraska took the field Friday against Iowa, that he wasn't thinking about coaching. He even mentioned today that he could be getting paid the same right now. He could be on the golf course right now or be here and getting paid the same. And, he brought it up to his family and they all wanted him to keep coaching. Like I said, they scouted the place out and they kind of fell in love with it. So that really changed my mind a lot. When he went on game day on Saturday, and I think that's kind of the message that he had sent out there, that he was interested in getting back into coaching right away. I mean, initially he had kind of planned to take the year off. But Nebraska was the right fit for him, and he could see himself here and making a difference. And he's done the same at Temple. He's done the same at Baylor. Took over both programs that were in a lot worse shape than Nebraska for sure, and turned them into winners. So, now I love the hire. Seriously. I've really done a complete 180 on my stance before that. And, the interesting thing was, I was in on an interview afterwards too with Chancellor Ronnie Green, and I think it was Sam McEwen of the World Herald. Whoa, had asked him when he was felt comfortable, knowing that Matt Rhule was the next head coach, and he actually said early last week. So this was in the works. This was already going for a solid 9 or 10 days that he was going to come here, and I thought it was a pretty good job that they did of keeping that under wraps until they did, and that had a lot to do with the Carolina Panthers and going through the paperwork there and everything and getting everything squared away, and so that's how it kind of ended up. And all the speculation we were doing last week at this time probably was all that, just speculation, because the decision had already been made by that time. So I find that kind of funny.
Well, that's kind of how that works. Well,
Yeah.
We asked Husker Nation here on the Voice of College Football, would you be satisfied with the naming of Matt Rhule as Nebraska's head coach? We had 821 of you chime in with 56% yes and 44% no. I went live after it was announced and confirmed that he would be the new head coach. And there were certainly mixed results in the chat. Some people were not happy, looking more at his work at Carolina with the NFL. I don't know that that's necessarily that relevant.
Well, yeah, talking about his time in the NFL, I thought it was interesting. It just correlates with both Temple and Baylor about the way he coaches, because he was asked, that he's been, kind of a defensive. He's kind of coached all over the place, but defense has kind of been his bread and butter. And he turned Temple into a top defense. Baylor, he turned them into a really good defense, and he even mentioned in Carolina, they were like top 5, I believe, last year in defense. And all his former players all went to bat for him as well. And I mean, when he got fired in Carolina, his players were heartbroken, and they all called him and texted him and supported him. So I truly think that he is a very, very good fit here. And, he wants to win games, and he knows how to win games. And he said it over and over, because he did play at Penn State. He knows the Big Ten. And, he knows this is his philosophy everywhere he's been is that you have to play physical. You have to be able to win the trenches and run the ball. And that's exactly what we've all been saying for how long now, that, that's the key, how to win in this conference. And that is his philosophy that's made him successful everywhere he's been.
Yeah. In this day and age of speed and space, that certainly has come to the Big Ten. There's no doubt about that, but it's still at the core a line of scrimmage league. And that's the way you got to play it. That's the way you got to win in this league. We saw Michigan do that over the weekend, certainly once again. So they proved another point there. And I heard Matt Rhule basically comment on his admiration for the Nebraska program, that he not only watched Nebraska football growing up and in through the 90s, but he certainly...
That's a Penn State fan.
What's that?
He was a Penn State fan too, growing up.
Yeah, a Penn State fan who said, you had to admire what was going on at Nebraska, being the dominant team and the most physical team in the country. And so, it is job number one to bring back that mentality, that identity, that brand of toughness.
Yep. I love everything he had to say about recruiting and about getting after it and developing players. And he takes a lot of pride in that player development, which I think we've seen a lot of lack of that here lately. under the last few head coaches that you just didn't see that development. And he wants big guys that he doesn't care if they're a project. He'll develop them. Mean physical guys he wants, fast guys he wants. And he's already started recruiting. I mean, he's already offered several players and plans to be out recruiting on Friday when the coaches are able to go out, and hopes to have some coaches in place too by that time to help out as well, as many as he possibly can. So yeah, I mean, all the wheels in motion. And I know people are asking about Mickey Joseph.
Yep.
And obviously he is right up there. They have not sat down yet. They have talked, but they haven't sat down and really basically interviewed and all that. And he's definitely, he wouldn't mention anybody, but he says he is bringing some people with him. So, there's going to be guys, there's going to be new coaches here, and you never know. There might be a mix of the old staff. He's definitely going to, address that here very quickly. He did sit down with, he got together with the team this morning, so he has met with the team. And, you got to kind of gauge where everybody's at. And I know that, obviously Mickey Joseph staying on staff would mean a lot for a lot of the players on the team to stay here, and a lot of the recruits in the recruiting class to remain commits. And, this is, we're December. We're right here on the doorstep of December, and signing day is only, 3 weeks away now for the first signing day. And this is the big push coming up here on Friday. The recruiting push is underway. So yeah, it's kind of a hectic thing that's going on right now. And I'm sure we're going to know more about this here in the next couple of days. And we all know, obviously, Mickey wants to stay here. And Matt RHULE did commend him. He said he was super impressed with the job he did here, and obviously he is definitely a candidate to be on this staff moving forward.
All right, folks, appreciate you being here. And once again, you can still vote on whether you are satisfied with the Matt RHULE hire. So that's on the community page right here at the Voice of College Football. And you mentioned recruiting, Greg, and you at the core are a recruiting guy. Did he say anything specific about recruiting? Did he say anything about there being any kind of new approach or what his philosophies are about recruiting? Anything that caught your ear?
Well, I as far as his approach, he's going to approach that the same way he always has. He's going to have to kind of look in different places, I think, than what he has been doing. But obviously coaching, growing up, on the East Coast, playing there, coaching there, and then coaching in Texas, he's obviously got a lot of ties nationwide. And then being in Carolina, obviously he didn't have to do any recruiting there, but living in the area for a couple of years, obviously, you get a little bit more of a feel for recruiting. But he's hitting the ground running here, and the thing that, like I just kind of mentioned, the thing that sticks out for me is that he knows the type of player he's looking for, and he's gonna turn every bush over to find those players. And one thing that really did stick out to me too is that he wants to have as many camps here as possible. And he wants 2,000-3,000 kids here, not just recruitable kids, but young kids, 9 and 10-year-olds, getting people here, getting them involved and seeing what it's all about. So, he's already reached out to the entire recruiting class that is, the 15 recruits that are on in the class right now. So it sounded all that sounded very positive as well. And yeah, like I mentioned, he's planning on doing some in-home visits, starting on Friday. So yeah, we'll definitely learn more about his recruiting style and everything as time goes by. You can't find everything out in in a couple of hours of being around a press conference and stuff. So, and it was hectic, I'll tell you that. But very well done. And I know we had to even wait for it to go live on ESPN. We had to wait for Trev at the podium. So, no, I think Nebraska hit a home run here. I really do, and especially if you can keep Mickey Joseph as well. Yeah, I don't think it gets any better than that.
8-year contract, from what I understand.
8 years, yeah.
8 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
All right, folks, celebrate with us. 100 shows. Look at that. I didn't even realize that until I put the banner together a couple minutes before the show started. 100 shows. So I'm going to do the math for you, everyone. 104 is going to be 2 years, 52 weeks in a year. There you go, 104. So we're only 4 weeks away from 2 consecutive years, 100 shows. So, hey, I'll give us some applause. Greg's been here every time. He's been loyal. He's supported this. He's made this run. We don't have a Nebraska show without him. So we appreciate Greg, and we appreciate our sponsor, Gene Arthur Associates. If you're just checking in with us maybe for a first time or you're not aware, Gene Arthur Associates are sponsor throughout the college football season. They had ticket giveaways. They supplied Nebraska fans for 4 different games. And we love football. We love our country. We know that the past 2 or 3 years have taken a toll on all of us. Economic difficulties have been especially hard in the past year. So remember those families in need. And when you support Gene Arthur Associates, when you come to an agreement with them and get some insurance there, you're also giving to families in need. So keep that in mind. So when you partner with Gene Arthur Associates, you're giving back. But of course, what you're going to do is you're going to partner with Gene Arthur Associates because, of course, you get a better and better insurance coverage. So whether it's business owners, motorcycle, boat, RV, home, commercial package policies, workers' comp, life, health, dental, crime, cyber, bonds, it's all covered. Gene Arthur Associates, I've left the link in the chat here a few times. It's also in the description section of all the videos here at the Voice of College Football, GBR. So get there and get your instant quote. All right. Was Matt RHULE asked anything about kind of the new world of college football? So he hasn't been a part of the transfer portal and NIL.
Correct.
So he's going to have to deal with that. But I do, like you said earlier, I do like the connections to the East Coast through Penn State and Temple and all the time he spent out there and being an East Coast guy, because we know at one point that this program really benefited from going out to New Jersey in particular, but also Texas, having been a success at Baylor. I'm sure he built up relationships down there in Texas. So that would be a great place for Nebraska to get strong again in recruiting.
Absolutely. Yeah. But no, he was obviously, like you said, it's been new, but he did say that he'll have to adjust a little bit to using the NIL to an advantage. He agrees with NIL. And then with the transfer portal, obviously, that's going to be new to him. But, I think for a guy that just spent the last couple of years in the NFL, that, it's probably not a whole lot different than just working free agency, for your team. So, I suspect that he won't have any problems with either one. Especially, I mean, with the NIL, I mean, he was just working with professionals, and everybody's getting paid at that level. So he kind of mentioned too. It's funny that he had he'd sit there and have a conversation with Amir Abdullah and Christian McCaffrey, and just the thing that he says that we're all people. It's not coach player. It's person to person with him. So I thought that was kind of a cool outlook on things.
With a coaching transition, and when that new coach is named at a brand name program, especially like Nebraska, a couple of days ago can seem like forever ago. So Nebraska did win a football game since the last time we all met and talked, and exercised some demons in defeating Iowa for the first time in 8 or 9 years. And pulling that game out, not pulling it out. They actually blasted them in the first half, of course, at 24-0 and held on for the victory. So Mike, 38-83. How are Nebraska fans feeling about upsetting the defending Big Ten Western Division champions and upsetting their chance to repeat? Well, you Nebraska fans can chime in and let Mike know. I would think it feels pretty good. It's obviously just one of those things where if you accept the situation for what it is, can't go to a bowl game, can't win any championships, this is all we got to play for. Well, it becomes kind of like your bowl game. And Nebraska took advantage of it and took out a team that had it right in front of them to go to the Big Ten championship game. So it's got to be a nice thing for the guys that are going out, that the week before, obviously, were honored on Senior Day.
Absolutely. And the thing that sticks out in my mind is a photograph of Caleb Tanner sitting in front of his locker holding the Heroes Trophy in his lap. And, he's got his shirt off and he's just in his pants, and you see his whole body is all tatted up and stuff. But he's like cradling it like a little baby in his lap. And yeah, that will always stand out in my mind. I mean, that was the greatest thing for all these players here to finally beat Iowa and ruin Nebraska or ruin Iowa's chances to play for a title. So that doesn't get any better. And I felt so great for Mickey Joseph and his staff and everybody. I mean, it was a big weight lifted off of the whole Husker Nation, really. And just think if the week before they pull out that Wisconsin game, you could have had 2 of those victories to end the year against 2 teams that you've really, really been struggling with for many years now. But that's a great way for those guys to go out. And I think that was the capper for Trey Palmer. Boom, he shows what he can do, and he declares for the NFL draft the next day, which I think is the best decision that he could make. But a day after setting the single season receiving record for yardage, in school history, pretty impressive for that young man, and very happy for him and for everybody.
I have to admit, I was.
You saw him doing a Lambeau leap at Kinnick Stadium. You had Huskers doing a Lambeau leap there after the game.
Why not? Why not? That is the encore. That's the end of it for him. And some others. Caleb Tanner, you mentioned. He had one of the big plays in the game coming off the edge, and strip sack, fumble, recovery led to another touchdown. And of course, Nebraska led 24-0 and held on 24-17.
That was a great game. I mean, I that for halftime, when it hit halftime, I was so incredibly happy. hadn't felt that way in a long time for a Nebraska football game, and they held on, and the defense played lights out. And it was really, really good and refreshing to see because you knew that they could do that. And they finally put it all together.
Yes, folks, we're brought to you by Gene Arthur Associates every Monday night here at the Voice of College Football on our Nebraska channel. We thank Greg. He's here every week doing yeoman's work, knocking it out. He's posting videos on Husker Online Video right now. So as soon as we get done here, you can head over to Husker Online Video right here on YouTube. Check out the videos from the news conferences and everything that went on in Lincoln this afternoon. And again, Gene Arthur Associates for your full home, auto, all your insurance needs. And it's more insurance than you could ever imagine. Just about anything that you could possibly need insurance on: workers' comp, inland marine, business owner policies, commercial package policies, boat, RV, motorcycle, everything, crime, dental, cyber bonds, everything. It's all covered. Go to Gene Arthur Associates. We've left the link in the chat a few times, and it's also in the description section of every video. Why not give it a try? Instant quote. You get your quote within a couple minutes. If you save money, you save money. There you go. And you'll be all set. And you'll do so knowing that you're also helping some families in need. Wow. First week of December, we're not going to see football again until September. Oh, goodness. This is what happens. But at least it's an off season.
You won't get to see football. I will.
Where are you going to see football?
Hey, football's all year round for me, buddy.
Well, you don't think it's all year round for me?
Well, I'm at camps all spring.
Oh, you're talking about actually seeing football. Guys run around in shorts. Sure.
Well, sometimes they're wearing full pads. Yeah, it depends on where you're going, but yeah. No, I see football action all year round.
Spring game. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Alan's correct there, though. Alan is correct there. You will see televised football in April.
If that's what you want to call it. I always fool myself into getting excited about the spring games, and then I see about 3 plays, and I'm like, yeah, that's right.
Well, unless you're a Husker fan, then you watch the whole thing. So,
well, I watched the whole thing just because I forced myself to, because I got to produce videos. I got to talk.
Don't we all?
I don't know if we've got a lean or a lead on any of these coordinator or coaching positions, do we?
There's speculations. I think he brings Coach Snow, his defensive coordinator. I think South Carolina offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield sounds like he's joining Matt RHULE's staff.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you've already got your coordinators already in place at this moment. We just, it's not official. There are, let's see. Okay. We have confirmed that Evan Cooper has joined Matt RHULE at Nebraska. He's the cornerbacks coach for the Panthers. And he was the recruiting coordinator for RHULE at Temple, Baylor, and Carolina. Also, assistant defensive line coach Terrence Kennington and assistant strength coach Corey Campbell will be joining RHULE as well. So you do have those confirmed right now. Yep.
So Marcus Satterfield certainly raised his stock in the last couple of weeks. South Carolina fans not extremely happy with him as of just a couple of weeks ago because nothing had happened much with Spencer Rattler's improvement, development, or production this year. But the last couple of weekends, wow, they blew the doors off Tennessee with 65 points, and then they took out Clemson. Clemson had not lost a home game in 6 years. And South Carolina hung 31 on them. So Marcus Satterfield's been the OC there with Shane Beamer for the last 2 years, was with RHULE at Carolina in 2020, was with Matt RHULE at Baylor in 18 and 19 as tight ends coach, was with Matt Rhule in 2013, 14, and 15 at Temple. So obviously there's the obvious long-standing relationship there, and no big surprise that Marcus Satterfield is on board. Okay.
Yeah, and you can also we've got right now, let's see. All right. Everything is up. Matt Rhule on the sidebar is almost done, but Trev Alberts with the side group and the media today, that's worth a listen or worth a watch as soon as we're off here. And he details the talks with Rhule and Mickey Joseph as of late and everything. I was not in on that one, so I didn't know what he'd said there. But yeah, there's everything that happened there today is ready to watch. So you can tell for yourself.
Nice. Nice. So who else do we have on this coaching staff? You said the defensive backs coach, Snow?
No, that was his defensive coordinator. I forget his first name. Let's see if I can find it.
So that must be Philip Snow.
Yeah, there you go.
Philip Snow. All right, let's see.
He's not been confirmed as far as I've seen yet, but that was the thought that he was coming as well.
Well, Matt Rhule obviously likes the coaches that have worked with him because he's not out there interviewing too many people, at least at the coordinator positions. I shouldn't say past that, because Philip Snow goes back with Matt Rhule to 2013 at Temple.
And you see this is what most coaches are going to bring their guys with them.
DC and safeties coach at Temple 2013, 14, 15, and 16. Then he was at Baylor, Matt Rhule, defensive coordinator, and then he also was the safeties coach there, and then he goes to Carolina with Matt Rhule for 3 years. So there you go.
Well, it looks like one of my interns got Casey Thompson talking about Matt Rhule. That's going up right now too.
Okay. Well done.
Nobody told me that.
You're training those folks well.
Yeah, but nobody told me that. I'm their producer. What's going on here?
Dion's telling us that Matt Rhule's going to have a conversation here with Mickey Joseph soon. So,
yep, that's what we just said.
I just can't imagine that he's not going to do everything possible to keep him on board.
I think you have to, especially with if you want to. The hardest thing for a new head coach incoming, especially at this time of year, is not only recruiting, but re-recruiting the kids that are already committed to you. And keeping Mickey Joseph obviously goes a long, long way to keep those guys on board. So, yeah. And, I mean, he knows Mickey. I mean, not personally, but he knows that he's a hell of a recruiter and a really good coach that's coached at a lot of different levels. So, yeah, Matt Rhule comes off as a pretty smart guy to me after today, being around him in person for the first time. And, what successful head coaches do is they surround themselves with other really good guys on their staff. So I think Mickey Joseph checks all those boxes.
For sure. Folks, comments and questions. If you've got anything for us, please let us know. Otherwise, keep in mind that we probably covered your question here in the first 34 minutes concerning Mickey Joseph, concerning coaches, concerning recruiting, strategy, and all of those things. We've got Javon Van Crump. Howard, if these coaching changes hold true, that means Fisher, Dawson, Bill Bush, Whipple, and Duval are all gone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And I mean, you can't be surprised by that. These were all Scott Frost hires. I've said many times that, obviously Mickey Joseph is the guy that you got to keep, and I think Sean Beckton's the guy that you got to keep, and in my mind, Bill Bush. But it's Matt Rhule's team. It's his staff, and he's going to build it the way he wants. So we'll see when it's all said and done.
Yeah, people are throwing records out there, and that's the bottom line for these coaches. But at the same time, you got to understand the circumstances and the context of it. Temple doesn't win anything. They're hardly ever any good. And Matt Rhule stepped in there and got off to a rocky start. Got off to a rocky start at Baylor. Takes time to get something going and get some traction and turn things around. So there's sometimes a step back, and there was at Temple and Baylor with 1 win or 2 wins those first 2 seasons at both those programs. But then he goes 6-6 at Temple. Then he has 2 consecutive years where he wins 10 games. He goes to a conference championship game for the first time in 50 years there. And then they go to another conference championship game and they win it before he departed for Baylor. Baylor's 1-11, and they had all that Art Briles mess and everybody leaving left and right, and he's got to stabilize that deal. They go 7-6. They win a bowl game. Then they go 11 wins, and they go to the Big 12 championship game. Those are 2 pretty impressive reclamation projects.
Yeah, and a little side note on there is Nebraska President Ted Carter was actually at Navy when Matt Rhule was at Temple, and they played Navy in that A-10 championship game, and Navy was a 14-point favorite going into that game, and he said Temple came in there with an incredible defense and shut down Navy and beat the pants off of them, and was very impressed with them then.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was the same year that Navy had just beaten Notre Dame for the first time in eons, too, that year.
Yes. And it also calls into question, the entire division, which won't necessarily be a division for long with USC and UCLA jumping on and the Big Ten reformatting everything. But, there was a time in this division where I'd look at some places like Minnesota and Illinois and others and think, their coach is just kind of another guy that is just kind of a retread somewhere, or he never has really accomplished anything anywhere. But 1 through 7, actually the guy that's going to be coaching in the Big Ten championship game this weekend, I've got all the respect for him, but he's the least accomplished out of all the coaches, Jeff Brom. And now with Luke Fickell hired as the new head coach at Wisconsin, everybody's got what you would consider to be pretty close to a top flight coach between Brett Bielema, Pat Fitzgerald, Matt Rhule, Luke Fickell, PJ Fleck, Kirk Ferentz. It's a strong division of coaches.
Yeah. Absolutely it is. Sorry, I got.
No, you were good.
Trying to communicate with
you were good.
People with content and message boards.
So. Yes, Deanna, remember that game? Baylor took playoff bound Oklahoma to overtime in the Big 12 championship game. Yes. They had earlier, lost a game right at the wire, I think 31-28. So he was able to bring Baylor up to the Oklahoma standard there for that final season before the Panthers came calling. And I wouldn't take too much from the Carolina experience. The NFL tends to chew up and spit out just about everybody, most coaches.
Absolutely.
So.
Yep, it sure does.
All right. I think we pretty much run the gamut unless you've got anything else, Greg.
Yeah. Not that I can think of.
We are wrapping up tonight, folks. We don't see any more comments and questions. We've run through everything. We're going to know more as we move forward and get to next week. We'll talk more recruiting. We'll talk more Matt RHULE and the matchups against Luke Fickell and everything involving the Big Ten Western Division. And, of course, the coaching staff as that becomes more and more complete. All right. And I'm sure there will be transfer portal moves coming up here. I think December 5th is the first day that they can officially enter the portal, although we had Michigan quarterback Cade McNamara announced today that he is entering the portal. He just can't do it until the 5th.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see with Luke Fickell taking over at Wisconsin and then RHULE here. And, yeah, it really does make things next season can't come too quick, I think, for any Big Ten fans.
Should be interesting. All right, everyone. We appreciate you being here for our 100th edition. And one more time, Gene Arthur Associates is the place to be for your insurance needs. So get on over there to Gene Arthur Associates. We've left the link in the live chat. And also it's in the description section of all the videos here on the Voice of College Football Nebraska. So, hey, you can save on insurance. Give it a shot. It only takes a few minutes to fill out an instant quote. All right, Greg, I'll let you get back to work. Your other job. I know this is the primary one right here, but, you got that other thing going on, that Husker Online thing. So,
yep.
All
well,
right.
We can't wait for next time we get to hear from, I would imagine the next step is having a roundtable with all the new coaches and stuff. So I have to look forward to that. Otherwise, we're along for the ride.
All right. Folks, we're taking your calls in about 15 minutes over on the main channel as well. We've got Hugh Freeze at Auburn to talk about, amongst other things. And, of course, championship games this weekend in all the conferences. All right, Greg, appreciate you doing this and making it for 100 shows.
My pleasure. Everybody take care tonight.
We'll see you next week, Monday at 6 Eastern, 5 Central, everyone. Bring a friend next week, and we'll see you then.